compulsory somebody has to go to church as a Christian?
Well, you don't need to go to church to be saved.
We are not talking of being saved now, because
After
this
you
being
are
saved
saved,
thing is a relative thing to me.
So the question now is, what is the purpose of church?
Okay, maybe that should be my question. All right, sir.
Yes. The purpose of church is for teaching, period.
For teaching, period. Now, okay, that will now take us to the next question, which is why do we have an individual having churches in Nigeria? Because I think this is the genesis of the problem we are having in that country. It's one of the genesis, not the genesis. One of the problems we are having, where somebody can just wake up and say, God called me. How will you know God is calling that person? Or how does that person know that God called them? Can you please explain to us?
So again, if it comes to the reference of the scriptures, the call of God is upon everybody. The Bible says no man comes to Jesus except he calls him. So it is depending on what is the interpretation of that calling, because every child of God is called. There is no child
every
of God
child of
that
God
is not
is
called.
Called to do what?
Called to be saved. Called
not called to start a
salvation.
church. We are talking about starting a church now,
so
where we have every
church,
corner of Nigeria with churches.
Yes, so starting a church is going to be a product of spiritual growth. When a man begins to grow in the knowledge of what God has called him into, as he begins to mature in that knowledge, is where he becomes capable of teaching others. Teaching others is what gives rise to somebody pastoring people.
It gives them the right to pastor people. Anybody can stand up and say, I am called, and start a church. Is that what you are saying?
Anybody cannot stand up. That is why if you read the Bible carefully, the people who started the New Testament church were people that Jesus called, 12 of them. They laid the foundation. And after they laid the foundation, they are gone. And nobody is part of that 12. That 12 is gone. Now, after they are gone, today you are born into where you believe the gospel, you join a church, you begin to grow. And as you begin to grow, you are taught, you get to a point of maturity where you're matured. Then the church appoints you to pastor. And if there's a call of God or an assignment God is giving you, you submit that assignment for elders in that church to prayerfully talk to God about it. When the leadership is persuaded, the leadership will now pray for you and send you forth to go and do the assignment that God is calling you to do. It's not everybody just stand up. And even in that context, there's a Nigerian constitution that is responsible for the founding of churches. And there's a Nigerian constitution that sets the parameters and the rules that allows for a church to be established legally or illegally.
So if there is a constitution concerning setting up churches, then why do we have churches all over the place in Nigeria?
Well, again, maybe those churches met the conditions of that constitution, or maybe some of them are just operating illegally.
Can you tell us one or two of the the rules or the laws governing it? Just one
for
or
you
two,
to establish, it's just some kind of rules that are also rules for establishing a society.
Like a business too.
You must have a board of trustees, people that own that society. It's a board. It's not one person. It's not two people. It's a board of trustees. That board of trustees will have to submit their documents. They will have to have records. The government will verify. And after all that verification is done, it will be approved. Then they'll be given a certificate of incorporation where the government is knowledgeable that such an entity is in existence. Based on that, they will submit their constitution. Their constitution will lay down their vision, their mission, their beliefs, which will be screened. And when it is approved, then that church can now come into being.
All right, sir. Now talking about that, with the way we have a lot of churches in Nigeria and what is going on, what we see on social media, about churches, the way they operate, what they do, since once they can register with board, they can start. Can you say it is doing us good or it is not doing us good with what we see?
Well, just like it is with all other organs of society, it has its good sides, it has its disadvantages.
So it's just something we have to live by and live with as it is.
We will live with it, but as we keep preaching the truth and sanitizing society with the truth, a lot of people will come to the knowledge of the truth. And when you have more people who have come to the knowledge of the truth, it becomes light where darkness cannot operate.
Pastor, will you agree with me that what we have in Nigeria are business centers, not churches?
I wouldn't, because, there was a man called, yes, I wouldn't, because not every church is a business center.
Most of them.
Well, some are.
I would say everyone that is owned by a man in that country is a business center.
Well, I will say some are, because if you know, and I know you know my stance, I've been very loud on the transactional gospel.
Yeah.
The transactional gospel is a gospel that promises you that when you give God money, God will do something for you. God will not do something for you till you give him some money, till you bribe him like a Nigerian contractor. Now, any church that is built around that narrative is a business center, because God is not like that. God is a father. I mean, even naturally, those of us that are parents, your child does not need to give you money for you to do good to that child. Your child doesn't have to bribe you for you to do something for that child. And that is not what the Bible teaches. In fact, Jesus, speaking in the book of Luke, says, if you that are evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? So that is why, again, the gospel of Christ must be properly preached and taught on a very huge scale, so that it is easy for people to know falsehood from the truth. And that's why we're shouting. That's why I even came on your platform, because I want to enlighten people some more. Because the more we throw the light out there for people to see, it will be easy for them to identify falsehood and darkness.
Now, from what we are seeing in Nigerian society, most of these churches, are you telling me they are all registered by the government?
Well, because I'm not working in that establishment, I cannot say yes or no. But the government, every church in Nigeria is supposed to be registered with the government for it to operate legally.
Okay, now talking about transactional business, transactional gospel.
Yes.
I've been seeing some flyers of, I'm sorry, sir, I have to say this. There's a particular pastor I've been seeing there's no, I can even mention, Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo. We know him as one of the transactional pastors. We have seen several videos of him asking people to sow seed for their lives and everything. Now I see you guys are having programs together. How do we now say you are different from them, sir?
Well, again, just like I go to platforms where even people who don't believe the Bible are hosting, I go there because I want to bring illumination. Anywhere human beings are gathered and I'm invited, I honor the invitation if I have the space and the time, because my desire is to bring light. My desire is to enlighten and empower people. So anywhere I'm invited, I will go. It doesn't matter which people are there, who is behind it. I will go there and teach the truth, because those who are seeking for the truth will find the truth when they meet it.
Because when I've been seeing the posters like 2 or 3, I'm like, what do they want to do together? They want to collect seed or what?
Well, I was there yesterday, and
okay, you were there yesterday.
You need to go and check that yesterday's service. We had a beautiful time.
Okay, sir. Now, talking about having beautiful time in churches, in this society where I am, I'm sure you know I live in US. What we do here is work most times.
Yes.
Nobody has time for church per se. You go to work, you do double schedule and all that. The only people that have time for churches mostly are our people, because of where we're coming from. We're already deep into it. So in Nigeria, they have this where they call for prayers all the time. What do you have to say for that? To what do you have to say to that? Whereby they are going to church almost 4 times a week,
no.
Some almost 5 times a week.
No.
I was once part of
God
the system, so I know how often we go to church.
The Bible never designed that you should be in church every day, because you still have a life to live. You have a family to take care of. You have people to help, and you have services to provide to humanity. So the Bible never designed for that. In fact, if you observe the disciples of Jesus, all of them were people doing different things. Some of them were tent makers, people like Paul. Some of them were also tent makers, people like Aquila and Priscilla, people like Apollos. They were all in that profession. They were into real estate. People like Peter were fishermen. People like Matthew were tax collectors. So people were in professions. And the Bible emphatically said, he that does not work should not eat. The Bible emphatically says, let him that stole steal no more. Let him work with his hand, that which is good, so that he can be useful to other people. That is what the Bible teaches. So work, labor, hard work, creative industry, bringing your contribution to the well-being of society and humanity is part of the Christian teaching and part of the Christian faith.
Thank you, sir. So as it is, can we say going to church once a week is enough?
Well, going to church once a week is enough. I mean, twice is good, once is good.
Once is okay.
But the important thing is that you're in church and you have got something that you can chew on. You've got teaching that you can meditate on and grow and use it to be a blessing to people. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So in other words, people who go to church to pray, in our country, we know people they have established church for us to come and pray for work. And yes, the work is not coming. So this is what has gotten us here, where many of us are asking questions today. Now, I want to go to the issue of healing, sir.